Let's take some time to look at the Nationals offseason coming up ahead. And I can tell you this much, if the Lerners do not spend this offseason, I'm out.
You are Locked On Nationals, your daily Washington Nationals podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And thank you all for making Locked On Nationals your first listen every single day, as we are free and available wherever you get your podcasts. And of course, you can check us out over on YouTube. Just search Locked On Nationals. And of course, wherever you get your podcasts as well. Again, search Locked On Nationals. Wherever you get your podcasts, hit that subscriber button, drop a comment in YouTube. Follow me over on Twitter at RyanClary11, and as well as the show page at LO_Nationals. And of course, today's show, we'll be kind of looking into the future of the Washington Nationals. Later on, we will preview the Phillies-Nats series that starts tonight up in Philadelphia. I hate Philly. Let's beat them. We'll discuss that series a little bit later on as the Nationals are going up against the ace, Aaron Nola. So we'll discuss that later on in today's show. But also, I've got an updated rankings of the Nationals prospects. Their top 10 prospects, in fact. There's a little bit of a shakeup. In fact, there's a pretty big shakeup and a name that you need to be familiar with. So we'll discuss that a little bit later on in today's show. But we start off discussing this Nationals offseason ahead. You just saw the Baltimore Orioles and how good they have been. I'm not patient enough for a nearly decade-long rebuild. You're not patient enough for that. Baseball itself is not patient enough for that. So, you got to spend some money in free agency. And if the Lerners don't, I can tell you this, I'm out. Before that, this episode is brought to you by PrizePicks, the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnMLB and use code all lowercase LockedOnMLB for a first deposit match up to $100. So, let's get into it here. As I said, the Lerner family has been in and they have been out. They've been exploring a sale for the team, and then they weren't. It looked at times that the Nationals would be selling to Ted Leonsis. And now we're kind of just back in the fact that they're probably going to own the team at least for the next few years until someone blows them away with an offer. I would not be surprised, entirely surprised, by the way, if they do sell the team, and even if they sell the team within the next year or so. But here's one thing that I do know. If you look around the diamond, and if you look at the prospect rankings, if you look at everything that just kind of feels right about this organization, we are so close. So close. We have some answers down in the minor leagues, including some prospects that we'll be getting into in the second segment of today's show that can help the Nationals. Dylan Cruz, Brady House, Travis Sakura down the line, Harleen Susanna, another flamethrower that will help us down the line, Cade Cavalli. You've got guys, Yohandy Morales, Seaver King. You have guys, and you even have guys up in the Major League roster. James Wood was a recent prospect who just graduated a few days ago. You've got C.J. Abrams, your franchise shortstop. Luis Garcia seems to be breaking out. Mackenzie Gore, while he has struggled here recently, I still believe in him. Jake Irvin, you've got pieces. You understand that point of it now. But the Nationals need a cherry on top. This is the offseason where you go out and you make a splash signing. No more excuses. No more saying we're a year away from that. You're here. This is the offseason. Because seeing the Orioles series, we all know that the Orioles, they went through that decade-long rebuild. As we were saying earlier, I don't know about you. I don't have the patience for a decade-long rebuild. In fact, this organization is too good to have a rebuild of that caliber. You have spent money in the past. And by the way, you spent some pretty damn good money in years past. Now, this year on opening day, their payroll was 21st in all of baseball. You're ahead of the Tigers, the Orioles, the Brewers, Reds, Rays, Guardians, Marlins, Pirates, and Athletics. All those markets being considerably smaller than what Washington, D.C. is. But just a handful of years ago, like for instance 2019, the Nationals had the 7th highest payroll in all of baseball when they went to win a World Series that year. And then the year following that, you had the 12th highest payroll. Then in 2021, an opening day payroll that finished 9th across Major League Baseball. And had teams like the Chicago Cubs, the Cardinals, the Giants, the Braves. This ownership has spent before. I know that they may be, a little handcuffed, I guess you could say, with the Masson deal at this point, and they might be tired of spending money. But that's really no excuse at this point. You have seen their payroll go as high as number 6 in all of baseball. You've seen the Tigers back in the day have a top 5 payroll at one point, back when they were making ALCS appearances a few years in a row. The time is now to spend for this organization. You have to spread your wealth around this team. And speaking of the Baltimore Orioles, one guy that I think we should really keep an eye on moving forward for this Nationals team is Anthony Santander, who is having a career year right before he gets into free agency. The time is now to make a signing of that caliber. Santander maybe not be the guy that you're like, oh, I'm going to buy his jersey immediately. But the guy's a good hitter. And even then, the Nationals, the contracts that they have dished out, we make fun of the Patrick Corbin deal. But at the end of the day, you don't win that World Series without Patrick Corbin. Jason Worth, back when you signed him before the 2011 season, it was a pretty big overpay. But ultimately, he helped change that culture. And eventually, while he wasn't on that World Series team, he paved the way for a lot of different guys and knew what it was like to win and win in October, more importantly, than helped younger guys like Bryce Harper. Bryce Harper, who then helped a little bit of Juan Soto, Anthony Rendon, Trey Turner, guys that looked up to Jason Worth. The Nationals don't have to go sign some massive superstar. You don't. But what you do need to do is find that cherry on top of all the prospects that you have developed right here in town right now. Dylan Cruz is ready. James Wood has proven that he is also ready. CJ Abrams, he was an all-star this year. You've got a semi-decent starting pitching staff, even though they've kind of fallen off here recently. You could probably use some help at starting pitching as well. But I'm no longer making excuses for the Lerner ownership group. In fact, I'll even go far as say this. I've always said, and in fact, some people have kind of given me a hard time for it, as you should. Some people have always said, why are you so easy on the Lerners? Well, it's made sense to me why they haven't been spending here recently. Would I have liked for them to make this team a little bit more competitive? Absolutely. It would have helped us. I understand that. But also in this situation, I understand why they didn't. Because even if you had a Bryce Harper on the 2021 team or even a Juan Soto over the last few seasons, this team would not be making noise in the postseason. So I understand why they let guys like Anthony Rendon go when they did. Now, they did dish out some pretty bad contracts with Steven Strasburg, and Patrick Corbin ultimately has become a dud of a pitcher. But I'm done making excuses. If they don't spend a pretty decent size deal for anybody out there, anybody, what if Cody Bellinger opts out and the Nationals want to get him? Sure. Anthony Santander, Pete Alonso, Juan Soto, Rhys Hoskins, maybe. who knows who the Nationals could spend on? Hell, maybe even Corbin Burns for the Baltimore Orioles. The time is now. And I can tell you this, heading into this offseason, I will not be making a single excuse for this ownership group moving forward. The time is now. And I have to believe that Mike Rizzo, this is beyond Mike Rizzo's issue, by the way. He does not control how much money they do or don't spend. He just gets a budget and has to roll with it. But I'm done making excuses for the Lerners. If they don't spend this offseason, I'm out. I'm not saying I'm out of being a fan or covering this team or doing this podcast every single day, but I will be up in arms and saying and screaming from the top of Nats Park, yelling for the Lerners to sell the team. But ultimately, I do think they will spend. But if they don't, I am out. What do you think? Let me know down in the comment section. Tweet at me at RyanClary11 or check us out over on YouTube. Again, search Locked On Nationals, hit that subscriber button, and then drop a comment down below. Next, let me get into some things that I think about this Nationals prospect rankings. I've got my updated top 10. There's a lot of shaking parts, and one guy has made a massive, massive climb. I'll discuss that a little bit later on, but next, let me tell you guys about some of our very good friends over at Liquid IV. And of course, you guys know I always talk about Liquid IV and what I do with it. When you're taking America's pastime, don't forget to hydrate with Liquid IV. And of course, baseball and summer go together like Liquid IV and indulgent hydration. And this is what I do right before I go and work out. I pour my powdered pour my powdered Liquid IV pouch in a glass of water. I stir it up. I drink about half of it right before I go to work out. I feel great. I get my essential nutrients and vitamins in there as well. Then after my workout, I drink the rest of it, and I feel great. It's one of the best sports drinks on the market right now for number one taste, in my opinion. Their taste from pina colada, lemon lime, and of course an acai berry as well flavor. They have it all out there. And of course, the flavor of summer, popsicle firecracker. Trust me, you'll want to try that. And also, if I have like a long flight, I had a 10-hour drive to Maine. I had some Liquid IV with me. I felt just hydrated up to you know what. It felt amazing. And of course, there are no more thirsty summers when you indulge in hydration with Liquid IV. Get 20% off your first order of Liquid IV when you go to liquidiv.com and use code MLB at checkout. That's 20% off your first order when you shop Better Hydration today using promo code MLB at liquidiv.com. Now we get back into it with my Nationals top 10 prospects sitting here today. So there is an update here. I will say it gets a little weird, but don't you kind of like weird? I like it. So we start off number 10. We're going to work our way down to number 1. Hint, there probably won't be that big of a surprise at number 1, but maybe there will be for you. We'll see. My number 10 prospect is Alex Clemmie. The left-handed pitcher, 19 years old. We just got at the trade deadline. One of the main pieces of that Lane Thomas deal. 2023 second-round pick. You've seen the production so far, and his last start looked really good out there. He is still a young arm, and I do think that the peak of his powers could be kind of a frontline sort of starter. But again, he's at number 10 for now because he does walk some guys. His control is a little bit spotty at this point in time, but you see the potential, you see the stuff. Standing at 6'6", 200 pounds, I think Alex Clemmie has the potential to be a very good arm for the Nationals moving forward. And the way that they have developed arms here recently, I do think he will take those next steps up. But right now, he sits at number 10. Number 9, 2024 first-round pick, comp round A pick, Caleb Lomavita, who just made his debut for the Fredericksburg Nats. Won't really talk all too much about his debut just yet, but still, Caleb Lomavita was someone who I thought the Nationals would have selected at number 10, maybe cut a deal there, but ultimately he fell down to pick number 39 that they got in that Hunter Harvey deal. This guy is a solid defensive catcher. He gets it done at the plate. He has 3 really good years of production at the Pac-12 level. So he fits in a number 9 profile. And even then, he could be higher than that in just a few weeks, depending on what he does in Fredericksburg. So we'll keep an eye on for that. I'll have my updated rankings once the minor league season wraps up in just about a month and a half or so. So keep an eye out for that. But until then, 2021 second round pick, Dalen Lyle. He is my number 8 prospect in the system. He has climbed up to AA so far. He has worked his way through many different seasons so far with the Nationals, had Tommy John surgery back in the day. But Dalen Lyle is one of these guys where, and we talked about it a lot with Eric Bach, including the other day, he's very talented, but he seems like kind of the odd man out who could be pieced together with a trade, maybe even this offseason. But he's got a lot of talent. He's got power. He plays really well defensively. He can move all around the outfield. He's got that sweet swing as well with a little bit of power. He can put the ball in play. Doesn't strike out all too much, at least at an alarming rate at this point through his career. So he's been one of those guys where I really like, but he's just kind of the odd man out at this point in time. Number 7 of the Nationals' updated prospect rankings for myself is Seaver King. Seaver King, 10th overall pick in this year's draft, number 17 overall prospect coming into this draft, according to MLB.com, went from Wingate to Wake Forest, where he killed the baseball this last year at a 954 OPS, 16 home runs, 64 RBIs, even had 11 stolen bases in there. Only one time was he caught stealing also, which I think is really impressive. He sits right now for the Nationals, for me, right at number 7. I still have to see a little bit more, but my main concern with him is what the Nationals can do. How can we kind of get the most out of him? That's going to be my big question. Number 6, Harleen Susana, the 102-mile-per-hour flamethrower in high A Wilmington. Get him up to AA. I think Susana, a few months ago, I'm not going to lie, I was like, this guy will just be a flame-throwing closer who throws 102, 103 miles per hour relatively consistently with a nasty slider. Well, he's doing that now through 5 innings pitched. Susana, he is one of those guys where everyone should be talking about this guy a lot more than what they are. A lot more. 102 miles per hour as a starting pitcher at 20 years old. We talk about Paul Skeens a lot. And again, I know Paul Skeens is Paul Skeens. He's one of the best pitchers in baseball already. But everyone talked about him down in the minors for his dominance, but also because he was throwing 102, 103 miles per hour as a starter. The Nationals have someone with that, and his name is Harleen Susana. Just saying. Number 5, 2020 first-round pick, Cade Cavalli. Cavalli, as he works his way back from Tommy John, I don't really expect him to pitch in the majors this year, but I think we can't forget how good of a prospect Cavalli was back in the day. Again, in 2022 for the Nationals, in 20 starts in 97 innings pitched, he had 104 strikeouts. He has 292 strikeouts through 228 and 2/3 innings pitched in his career down in the minors. He's got a whip of 1.21. He has a 209 batting average against. I don't know what Cade Cavalli will be like post Tommy John. We just haven't seen enough of him just yet. But the guy is still talented. You still believe in him. So don't forget about Cade Cavalli. He sits right now for me as my number 5. But number 4, Yohandy Morales. I'm a believer in Yohandy. I think the Nationals could potentially stick him over at first base down the road. Now, will they do that and will they stick to that? That is probably the better question. But what I want to see from Morales is, number 1, the power continue to really kind of take that step up. Because last year, he was the Nationals' best hitter in their farm over the second half of the season as the Nationals took him in the second round at the University of Miami. But Yo-Yo, where will he fit? That is the big question for him. So we'll see what the Nationals decide to do with him, but ultimately he sits at my number 4 spot. Number 3, Travis Sikora. This is the guy, in my opinion, who might be a top 10 prospect in all of baseball eventually. This time next year, it would not shock me whatsoever to see him to be a top 15 prospect in baseball. That is how good this kid is. He has shown it time and time again. And if you missed that interview with Eric Bach, who has watched him all season long take these steps up and continue to just thrive down in Fredericksburg, you want to check that out because we spent about good 10, 12 minutes just talking about Travis Sikora and how good he has been and what he has done. So check that out. He's the number 3 prospect in this organization right now. And to me, the 3 guys, the top 3 here, they separate themselves by a mile compared to the others. I think Travis Sikora is your 3rd best prospect today in this national system. And eventually, once Dylan Cruz graduates, he probably could even jump Brady House by the end of this season. Who knows at this point? But Travis Sikora is that good. Number 2, Brady House. We don't have to say too much about him. I still think Brady House has crazy potential, even though he has struggled here a little down the stretch in AAA, but he is 21 years old, just turned 21, in fact. And again, this kid is really good, big pop, still young. He has kind of bounced around a little bit from AA to AAA, but the power is real. The hit tool is there as well. He's got a very good arm over at third base, really solid defensively. I think he is a plus defender overall. He's got a plus arm over at third base. He'll make that transition very easily up into the majors, I think. But keep an eye out for him again to be called up here soon. And of course, the guy that I think will be called up here soon, Dylan Cruz, your Nationals' number 1 prospect in the system. The numbers may not indicate him having a great season, but I can tell you this, you should not be worried about Dylan Cruz. The floor is going to be an above average major league hitter, even though some of his holes have kind of shown here recently. You haven't really seen the power on crazy display here. But Dylan Cruz is going to be an above average major leaguer. He's still only 22 years old. I am not worried whatsoever. This guy is going to be legit. He will be an all-star for your team. He will man center field for years and years to come, hopefully all the way through 2031 or 2032, whenever he will be a free agent. We'll see what the Nationals do, but again, Dylan Cruz, he will be just fine for your Washington Nationals. So that is your updated prospect rankings for you. Let's run through it real quick. Number 10, Alex Clemmie. Number 9, catcher Caleb Lomavita. Number 8, center fielder, outfielder Dalen Lyle. Number 7, shortstop / middle infielder Seaver King. Number 6, right-handed pitcher Harleen Susanna. Number 5, right-handed pitcher Cade Cavalli. Number 4, Yohandy Morales, third base, first base, whichever you want to call him there. Number 3, Travis Sikora. Number 2, Brady House. And number 1, Dylan Cruz. That is my updated prospect rankings. Do you guys agree? Who do you think kind of got a little too high? Who got snubbed? What would you do differently? Let me know in the comment sections. But we have to move on to discuss about the Phillies series. I hate the Phillies. I hate them. Sorry. I'm not supposed to say that, but I do. So we'll get into that series. But before that, today's episode is brought to you by our friends over at PrizePicks. And you may be wondering, well, what is PrizePicks? Well, I can tell you this. PrizePicks is a daily fantasy sports game that offers a pick'em style of play for various sports, including the NFL, NBA, MLB, NHL, WNBA, and even esports, and as well as soccer. And the game is designed to be quick and easy to understand and is intended for both casual and die-hard sports fans. If you open up PrizePicks tonight, you've got the Nationals taking on the Phillies. I'm going to say it. I hate to say it. I think Bryce Harper gets more hits. All you have to do is have more or less on player stat projections. I think tonight Bryce Harper does get more against the Nationals. But here's the good news. I think Luis Garcia Jr. gets more hits against Aaron Nola. Now, we'll see if the Nationals can get lucky with that, but that is all you have to do. And of course, when you check out PrizePicks, make sure you get the daily fantasy sports that you want. All you have to do is go to prizepicks.com/lockedonmlb and use code all lowercase lockedonmlb for a first deposit match up to $100. Again, go to prizepicks.com/lockedonmlb and use code all lowercase lockedonmlb for a deposit match up to $100. Thank you all for making Locked On Nationals your first listen every single day, as we are free and available wherever you get your podcast. And now the Nationals take on the Phillies tonight, a 3-game series over the weekend here. What will the Nationals do? Well, let's get into it. You're going against Aaron Nola tonight. I don't love that matchup already. He has diced this up in years past. You see plenty of former Nationals on the other team as well, led by Bryce Harper. Annoying, don't like him, want him to strike out every single time he's up there. But here's the thing with this Nationals team, you just simply never know. Maybe this is the series the Nationals get right. Maybe this is the series where the Phillies, who kind of have been in a little bit of a slump here recently, maybe the Nationals get lucky and take 2 of 3 here. But I don't like this pitching matchup tonight going up against Nola. I just don't. And for whatever reason, the Nationals in Philly, when it's going to be a sold-out Citizens Bank Park on a Friday night all the way through this weekend, the Phillies, while they have been struggling, this is kind of when they got hot last year. They've been cold here recently, but I think that's not going to last long. They've got a ton of talent. They've got good pitching. They've got a good bullpen. And they have a very good offense. They are a very well-oiled machine at this point in time. You do not want to see this team in October. So let's see if the Phillies can stay cold. But until then, yikes. I don't love this matchup for the Nationals. But unfortunately, you got to play them. And maybe the Nationals get lucky and win the series. I always root for them to beat the Phillies, even though we're kind of in a tank mode right now. But I want to see them win in Philly. That would make my heart warm. Thank you all for making Locked On Nationals your first listen every single day. Until then, you guys have a good one. We will catch you on the flip side. Have a good one. Go Nats. Beat the Phillies. I'll see you on Monday.